但是台我没有下进去呢，已经去留医生在家里跟。哎，你看，你看，已经死了。我讲那个路的风景好像就光到了。
Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of HOBO, a wandering podcast about cinema, and we are here at the 73rd Berlin International Film Festival, and we are very happy to introduce to you Lei Lei, a Chinese director, and we are very happy to discuss with him his new film That Day on the River, premiering at here in the Berlinale in the 𝗂𝗶𝗶𝗃𝗀 section. And Lei Lei cinema is often an exploration of past personal memory and delicate oral histories of family relationship. And this time, newspaper clippings, historical photographs, and moving images about a female basketball player serve as the source material for an exploration of your father's childhood in provincial China. And in 2016, you traveled with him to Ningdu by bus to do preliminary research for your animated feature film, which premiered in Rotterdam, 𝗂𝗶𝗶𝗃𝗀 and 𝗂𝗶𝗶𝗃𝗀. So the material for this film, if I understand correctly, actually comes from there. And what struck you while listening to the recording and made you think that a second movie could be made from what you had initially cut off from your previous film?
Yeah, actually, I I did not listen again. It's like just all the material I think in my hand, because I did a lot of research for 𝗂𝗶𝗏 and 𝗂𝗶𝗏.
Yeah.
So I put all the materials, black and white photos, all the magazines in my studio. Of course, like all my family story, I check several times when I editing 𝗂𝗶𝗏. So that's why I always have something else like in my hand, and then I'm thinking about maybe I can do another film because this part not included by 𝗂𝗶𝗏. So that's why I start to work with this new film.
So yeah. Have you thought that the leverage of this material could be good for an autonomous movie and not just inserted in 𝗂𝗶𝗏 and 𝗂𝗶𝗏?
Yes, like that.
And some of the stories your relatives tell in your films can be harsh, but it always feels like they are telling a joke.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you think this lightness come from, and how do you try to highlight it with the images?
I think the lightness because because my father and my mother, I think my family is not so like they are very lovely people and very easy to talk. I think and I think the relationship between my parents to me is very light, and they are not very nervous when I do the interview. It's just like chatting. And in another hand, I think because my generation is very far from history, we did not feel the painful from the history, and we did not feel that kind of strong, for example, like angry or nervous or I don't know, from history. So that's why for me, if I make the film, I think I more like to make the history more light, more easy for audience, but instead of painful to audience.
Yeah. And do you think your cinema can inspire other people to investigate their family history and the ways their past resonates in their quotidianity?
Yes, of course. I think because if we talk about history, like I don't know, maybe in any country, maybe the government or the class book have right to describe the history, to telling the history. But I think history is built by several family history and belongs to the several people. Like all the people, if everyone talk about the stories in the family, talk about the history in the memory, put them together, that's the truth from the history. So of course, I think if people come to the cinema to be a part of my storytelling, but they can use their own background or their own story to have a conversation with me in the cinema, and that make up the history comes to be more and more layers, and to comes to be more and more life. I don't know. So that's the beautiful theme in the cinema for me. Yeah.
And do you think this kind of research in your films is also a way to reflect on your identity? And in what time of your life this urge did you feel this urge to go back into your past, of the past of your family?
Oh, that's a good question. I think because like when I was young, back to 10 years before, I have no idea like about identity, because a lot of Chinese young people would like to have very modern life, of course, like in Beijing and Shanghai. And this kind of modern city, I think the lifestyle very similar to New York or Paris. People have coffee, fast foods, computer games. I think it's the same. But in past 10 years, I think the world changed a lot, and I traveling a lot with my artworks and with my films. And sometimes I sit down together in the cinema together with people from India, Europe, North American, South American, from different color. So then I question myself, what different from me to others, and what is my identity? Like why Lei Lei, how to say, to be Lei Lei? Yeah, so that's my question. Then when I go back to my hometown and I try to find out my family story, and I try to understand my parents, grandparents better, I found I developed my identity slowly and step by step. Even I could not find the right answer, but I love this kind of process. It's helping me to understand myself better and better. I think the question is who have right to talk about the past, to talk about history. This is my interesting part, especially in the cinema. So like I watch a lot of films in China or out of China. So if the film about history looks like the filmmaker have a lot of right in the cinema, and the director would like to tell audience the history is like this, not like that. So for me, this is very, it's not freedom cinema. So when I work with my own film, I'm not means I'm not interested about cinema. I means I would like to open the cinema or more freedom to audience. So I only bring the shadows, and I only bring the part of story to the cinema, and then the audience could come to finish the story. I think this is most interesting things. And when the audience come to the cinema, when they finish the story, they build up their own understanding of the past. So I think that's that's the theme I'm interested in. I'm not interested about the past in the, how to say, class books or from someone told you. I'm interested about the past or the history happened in contemporary cinema, like happened right now. We talk, we have conversation, then the past is alive and could help us to understand what should we do at this moment, and could help us to build new relationship between people. So I think that's more interesting.
About the visual aspect of the film, which is certainly less lively, colorful, and exuberant than 𝗂𝗏𝗏 and 𝗰𝗵𝗁𝗄. How did you work on color and its absence in this case?
Yeah, for that one, because I use a lot of clay and I use a lot of black and white photos, of course, magazines. Because when I start to work with my family story, I found I have no idea about the image, what China, like small town in China in 1915 looks like. So I could not find an archive for that. So then I found, okay, maybe clay is good material because I can make up the image by my hands. So it looks like make up the memory. So I like this kind of feeling. It's part of reality and part of fake. So so then I just use my animation technique to make up the people in the history, in the family history, and the mountain, river in my imagination. So that's one that's part of the film. Another part, I just cut out a lot of materials from old magazine and black and white photos to make something looks real. So I like this kind of clash in my film, and it looks like something you can find in the reality, and something is just the filmmaker's imagination, and lead the audience to find out what is the real in the past. So yeah, that is, yeah.
And I would like to know something about your interest and your work with keywords. I've read an interview where you said that also keywords are essential in interviewing your relatives, because they won't feel restricted in the answers in that way. But also, as you said yesterday during the Q&A here in Berlin, that also in the editing phase are essential the keywords to find images in your archive. So how does this process work, and how does the archive that you have built up over the years help you in the making of your films now?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. If we back to 10 years early, I finished another film, 𝗿𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. It's a short film. You can find it on Vimeo. When I work with that project, we just based on the keywords. We just go back to the 500,000 photos, and then some kind of element always show to us. Then we have keywords in our mind. Then we put the pictures, put the archive in different folder. Then we have keywords. So in past 10 years, I continue collection in my studio, black and white photos, magazines, different material, official documentary films. So when I check them, I always found some element just show up, and I can't say no to them, like dancing, like a bicycle, like I don't know, the shadow. So those elements is so beautiful, and I think maybe I will use this kind of keywords in the future project. So I just keep them in my studio. So the process for my filmmaking is like rolling the snowball. I wonder if that makes sense. It's growing up. So when I work with my filmmaking, like that day on the river, it's not like, oh, I have the idea, then I go to find out what kind of material I could have. It's like I already have my library. Then I have an idea. I'm very freedom to go back to my library to find out what I can use for my new film. So this is like, I think for me it's very healthy process, because I can continue to do my own project one by one, and I will continue my collection. So it's helped me to continue develop my library and the film cinematic language also. Yeah.
And do you think that this working method through keywords also helps maybe the viewer to identify with a story that is obviously very personal and very limited perhaps in time and space?
Yes, I think, I did not have this kind of idea before filmmaking, but when the film screening in the cinema, I found it's like a magic. Like, I remember when my film, Birthless Animals, screening in Berlinale maybe 4 or 3 years before, some audience from Germany, they said, oh, we have similar picture like the bicycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and when I screened the film in the Korean, and the audience said, oh, we have similar modernist architecture, like as in the film, in Korean, we have similar style of architect. So I think this is very, very interesting way to have a communication with audience. We are not only communicate based on the story, we also communicate based on the keywords. So maybe if we only based on the story, sometimes the family story, the audience could not, it's not very easy for everyone be a part of it, because it's your family story, you have not right to judgment.
Yeah.
But if we talk about keywords, like talk about bicycle, talk about the dream, everyone have right to discuss, and everyone have right to bring their own idea. So I think this is very, very nice way in the cinema. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you interviewed your grandfather years ago for the first time, it was not yet in your mind that you would use that conversation for a film, which you knew when you started talking to your father and recording your conversation. Do you think your way of approaching yourself, knowing that material would have been useful for your work, has changed?
Yeah, I think the way I do the interview is not changed a lot, even I do the filmmaking, because it's not like a reporter to interview some stranger, because it's like family talk. Like even 10 years before and recently, I think the conversation still looks very similar. So if you check that day on the river, I think the conversation between me and my father is very easy and lightness. So, but when I editing the film, I think I will very carefully to go back to listen to all the interview material I have, because sometimes I think my family member talk too much, talk a lot, because we have very close relationship. But I don't think audience will be boring about that, because everyone have a family story and everyone have their own like secret garden in the memory. So in Birthless Animal, or this time in that way on the river, I just try to cut out some answer from the interview. Like if you remember in Birthless Animal, when my mother just try to answer, I just cut, and then we show some noise. And this time, when my father just try to tell me something else, I just break the interview by the clock. So I try to use this way to, if we say change, I try to use this way to change the interval by editing. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, in your work, you use different medium, different materials. And so I would like to know, how do you choose the right material for every movie? And during the trip you recorded, you and your father talked about his childhood memories and things he wasn't good at. So I would like to know, there is some kind of maybe medium or genre in cinema that you would like to master? Maybe something that you are not quite into it now, but you would like to master in the future?
Oh, you mean me?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it's like two questions.
Yeah,
First is like how to choose the material, and the second is like how like what I would like to do next.
Yeah, working with materials that you haven't worked with
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah, I think material is very limited to me, especially in past 3 years. It's very hard to have a budget for the filmmaking, and it's very hard to have a crew to go out to shoot, right? So, but I'm very happy that they on the river is like I have nothing in my studio, but I still use archive and use found footage to finish the filmmaking. So I like this kind of process, like work with moving image artworks with very limited materials. So actually, I don't have a lot of space to choice. It's like the official documentary clip is just like few seconds, and the photos from secondhand market is just like 5 or 2 still images. So I have not so many choice. I think the most interesting thing for me is how to editing and how to collage everything together and make something new happen in the cinema. So I like this kind of how to say magic cube again in my studio. So if we link these two questions together, I hope I could master. I'm good at use camera to do some shooting maybe in the future.
All right.
Yeah, maybe I can use 6 millimeters or 8 millimeters or 16 millimeters camera to shoot some footage for my own films. Actually, in that day on the river, I already shoot something.
Yeah, of course.
I think that's good starting. Yeah, so because why I do that is it's like if I only use archive or found footage, is it's totally very limit to myself. Also, it's not because the number of it, and it's like limit my freedom in arts. So I don't like this kind of feeling. So maybe if I can shoot and if I can use really film to make, maybe I can develop like a new language to my own film. Yeah, because of course, I hope I'm still young. I can continue to do the experimental. Yeah.
And we'll follow your path with great interest because we really love your cinema and your work. So thank you very much, Lei Lei, for being us today and for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, and bye.
Bye.
当时在我没有下进前呢，已经请了医生在家里跟。哎，你看，你看，已经死了。我叫那个风景华，